Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Daily Dispatch, brought to you by the Mayday Network. We wanted to come on really quick, Tara Setmayer, Julie Roginsky, and myself to talk about some breaking news. Former FBI Director James Comey is expected to be indicted in federal court here in the next couple of days from Pam Bondi and Donald Trump's DOJ. And this is just, not shocking, but totally shocking. Julie and Tara, what are your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts on this were, of course, what took so long?
Right.
Donald Trump has been on the retribution tour since 12:01 p.m. on January 20th. As soon as he got the powers, he has begun the retribution tour. He told us all he was going to do this. I don't know why people are still, especially in the mainstream media, are still like, oh my God, like they're delusional. And so I feel bad for James Comey. I think it sucks. This is bullshit. There should be outrage over this. These are trumped up charges stemming from his congressional testimony in 2020 that have virtually for them to do this. And people need to understand this is not happening in a vacuum.
Right.
The Eastern District of Virginia, which I think is where I am, I guess technically, Trump just fired that U.S. attorney because he refused to bring these charges.
Right.
Because he looked at it and said, this is bogus. I'm not doing it. And Trump said, you're fired. And then he replaced him with a lackey, some chick that's from his White House staff, like another Alina Habba situation here.
Wow. And a former pageant friend of Erica.
Correct.
The way.
Correct. Who has no experience as a prosecutor, and installed her in this position to do exactly this.
Well, I will tell you what took so long, and I think you kind of answered it. What took so long is that the former United States attorney would not indict Jim Comey because it was such a bullshit indictment.
Yeah.
It's when you saw Trump tweeting out to Bondi, which everybody thinks was by mistake, but actually I think was on purpose.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Saying, Pam, what is taking so long? And the reason he was panicking was because the statute of limitations was about to be up within days. If Comey were not indicted immediately, he would walk. The statute of limitations would be over. And so that is what took so long, because there was a United States attorney who said, hey, despite the fact that I'm a loyal Trump appointee, even I think this is a bullshit case. Now, we all know you can indict a ham sandwich. The way federal indictments work, and I want to be, this may be self-explanatory to people, but I think people need to understand this. The way indictments work is that you don't even need witnesses. Typically, an FBI agent walks in and says, A, B, and C happened. The defense counsel is not even allowed, certainly the defendant's not allowed to be there. The defense lawyer is not allowed to be there. It's just the prosecution giving its theory of the case. There's no defense allowed. And sometimes you don't even know that you're being indicted. And then the indictment comes down. Sometimes it's sealed, sometimes it's not. But the bottom line is it's happening. And anybody could be indicted. I mean, there's that famous phrase from a New York judge that you can indict a ham sandwich. And it's true. You can indict a ham sandwich.
Yep.
Proving that something actually happened, that's a whole different story. But it doesn't.
That's not the point, though, Julie, right? It's like filing frivolous lawsuits. It's not the point. That's why they're called frivolous lawsuits, but you have the right to bring them. And then you still have to, there's a process. And so now James Comey is going to have to get a lawyer and have to go through all of this until finally a judge throws it out. But in the meantime, it sends the chilling effect. They did the same thing that Bolton. That Bolton was the pretext to this. They were able to find a judge. They were able to find whoever they needed to reopen this thing into Bolton. Now, he hasn't been indicted yet.
Not yet.
Right. Not yet. They just got the search warrant. But like, this is all the same. It's all the same thing. I mean, this is so outrageous. All I want to say is, remember when Republicans were apoplectic over a chance meeting of Bill Clinton and the current sitting AG in 2016?
I would be remiss, Michelle. This is going to sound very uncharitable, but I would be remiss to remind people, if I did not remind people, that James Comey, who does not deserve what is happening to him, but nevertheless was so concerned about his reputation that he decided to not indict Hillary Clinton, but then to hold a press conference discussing all the ways in which Hillary Clinton had aggrieved him and sinned against him, despite the fact that it was not illegal. And that is a big reason as to why the New York Times and others focused on not just the emails and not just on the Podesta emails, which are a bunch of bullshit and included some soda recipe, but why they included, but Comey, opened the Pandora's box to this and reopened that whole discussion just days before the election.
Yeah. The whole, oh, by the way, there's we found some emails on so-and-so's laptop. What was it? Wiener's laptop.
Yeah, which again turned out to be a nothing burger.
Nothing, but yet nothing about the fact that Donald Trump and the Russians and all of that was going on at the time. Right. No, mom about that.
You've come to the right person, because here's how that worked. And I want to be very clear about this, because this is also on Jim Comey. And again, this is not a pile on Jim Comey.
Right.
But I do want to be clear about how we ended up here.
Yeah. Sometimes we reap what we sow.
Including how Jim Comey ended up here. On October 7th, 2016, the Federal Bureau of Investigation under Jim Comey was about to put out a report about how Russia broke into the DNC and hacked the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
That morning, the Access Hollywood tapes broke.
That's right.
Now, there are some people,
right?
There are some people who believe that Russia actually leaked those Access Hollywood reports, that Access Hollywood tape, to take attention away from the FBI's report about how they had leaked and hacked into the DNC.
Wow.
First I heard that, but I wouldn't doubt that in hindsight.
I'm not done, because it gets even more cynical.
Oh my God.
That happens in the morning. A few hours later, the FBI under Jim Comey still releases how Russia hacked into the DNC. But nobody's paying attention to that, because as soon as they do, Russia releases the first tranche of the Podesta emails. And they do it in a very smart way. They do Podesta, hashtag Podesta 1. The next day, hashtag Podesta 2.
I remember this.
Hashtag Podesta 3. And there was nothing in those emails of interest to anybody.
Right. Doesn't matter.
So what was of interest is that people, including the New York Times, spent more time writing about those emails than they did about any policy leading the 9 days leading up to the election.
Of course.
And into this toxic brew, the useful idiots that the New York Times were, and our own FBI were, comes Jim Comey and says, oh, wait a second, I also found emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop. And by the way, though I refused to indict Hillary Clinton because she did nothing illegal.
Reckless, but not illegal, right?
Reckless. Let me talk about all the ways that she was reckless. Now, that's not his job. His job is either to recommend that there is an indictment or not. Right? If somebody chooses to not indict any of us for, jaywalking, you don't talk about all the different things that we did wrong. That's nothing to do with that.
And wasn't that like 4th of July weekend? I remember exactly where I was when that happened.
Yes.
I was coming back from the Hamptons because my husband was working out there. And we were coming back and we stopped at the Hampton coffee place. You know, the Hampton, there's like a coffee company out there. And everyone knows I like coffee. So I remember listening as we're driving on Route 27 going, holy shit. And I remember taking my phone because I had to get out of the car to go get the coffee and listening to it on my headphones at like the whole time while I was getting this coffee and getting back in the car and then sitting in the parking lot going, holy shit. And listening to that whole thing. And I thought to myself, this is unprecedented. I could not believe it.
Well, what was so cynical about this is that Jim Comey, who had just on October 7th released a report about how Russia hacked the DNC, then proceeded to
and
act
beyond, see, right? I mean,
proceeded to act like Russia's useful idiot.
Yes.
And by talking about the Anthony Weiner tapes or emails, excuse me, right before the election.
So that was 3 months later, right? So it was July was the first bomb, right? Where Comey was like, we're not going to indict her, but
it was October.
Recklessly doing da 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 and did that whole thing. And everyone was like, that's not his role. What are you doing? She weathers that. And then now all the other crazy shit that happened in, with the Access Hollywood tape, which people thought, okay, this is it now with him. And the debates where she wiped the floor with him didn't matter. Here we were. And again, these are like moments like, people remember like where they were on 9/11, or they remember where they are and like other things like that. For us political people, we remember where we were when like political bombshells happened. Yeah. I was in the parking lot of ShopRite on a Friday afternoon when the Access Hollywood tape thing went viral. And I remember I was a CNN contributor then, and Don Lemon's people calling me saying, get into the studio now. Can you come in tonight? And I was like, yeah. And I remember exactly where I was when the freaking case was reopened or whatever with the stupid Weiner emails. I was in Wyoming in a cabin because I spoke at the University of Wyoming. And I remember thinking, holy shit, this is very bad. It was 10 days, like October 26th or something. It was like 10 days.
I do. I remember
where
that.
I was. And I
know where I was?
Never forget it.
You know where I was? At Fox News, having to launder this shit day in, day out, day in, day out. It was a Russian operation that went from the GRU, Russian intelligence, which had hacked the DNC's emails as early as 2015, about 15 months before they leaked the first tranche. And they timed the leak of the first tranche, the DNC leak, on to coincide with the days leading up to the Democratic National Convention. And what they leaked there was how the DNC was putting its finger on the scale for Hillary, which of course got all the Bernie bots and all the bros. A lot of the Bernie bros you saw online.
Oh God, yeah.
Those were Russian accounts. Those were not real Bernie bros. But it created a lot of tension. And then, of course, rightly so, the Sanders campaign got really pissed off because they saw these emails about how the Clinton campaign was basically, the DNC was putting its finger on the scale. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chair of the DNC, resigns within 48 hours. We go into the convention. I was at that convention, Tara. I don't know if you or Michelle were.
I did not go to the DNC convention.
Yeah, so I was there. There was a tremendous amount of anger on the floor from the Sanders.
I remember this, though.
Rightly so, because they really were like, wait a second, DNC, why the hell are you putting your finger on the scale? You're supposed to be
right.
And that's what happened. Now, that at least you had some newsworthy shit coming out, even though Jim Comey at that point should have come out and said, media, if you want to disseminate this shit, understand what you're disseminating. You are acting like useful idiots and a launchpad for Russian intelligence.
Which the Russian intelligence has our number, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, is like they know exactly what the weaknesses are. They know exactly, what shiny object that the US media will chase and what everybody online will chase. And I'm sure predictably, they were probably just sitting there going, because you know what I mean? And this isn't, of course, the first time that the Russian intelligence apparatus has done this to a government. It's just probably this is the biggest fish, right? And so we look back that far, and honestly, you're blowing my mind a little bit right now, Julie, with the with some of the stuff that I guess I'd never put together. And it's a miracle that we won in 2020.
Oh, I say this all the time. Well, it's a miracle we won in 2020 for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is, and I wrote a whole Substack on this yesterday. Right. But I got to tell you, how much did we blow in that Lady Gaga concert the night before the election, a couple of nights before the election? How much did we blow on Beyonce speaking at a rally, or Oprah, or any of these people? Charlie Kirk started Turning Point USA with a $10,000 investment at the age of 19 from Foster Freeze. $10,000. Talk about an ROI. It was bringing in $80 million over the last 10 years annually.
I think about this all the time.
And
80 million, and God knows how many votes he delivered for Donald Trump in.
You know what, Ben Shapiro, age 17 gets a syndicated column from a right-wing syndicator, right? Regnery Press then proceeds to start publishing his books. There's no democratic equivalent of Regnery Press. This is these are the people that pump out right-wing books.
Yep.
Then he approaches two billionaire brothers, right-wing billionaire brothers, and for $5.7 million of an investment, he starts the Daily Wire, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And if you want to know why our young men, and not just white young men, but Latino young men and African-American young men are trending Republican, you can thank that $10,000 investment now and the $5.7 million investment for Ben Shapiro. Now, you tell me, Tara Setmayer or Michelle Kinney, has there been anybody on the left that has found a 19-year-old who doesn't even have that much talent? It doesn't matter. Have a modicum of talent and said, here you go. I'm going to give you some startup money. I'm going to give you some startup money. We're launching a media network that we're bootstrapping. None of us are sitting here rolling in it because all we're doing is doing this for free, that we're bootstrapping out of our own pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And
we started Seneca. Michelle and I started Seneca out of our own money.
But that's my point.
Like all of that, like people don't realize. And I've said this as someone who came from the Republican world and was, you know, at these dinners and at these events and at these conferences, never Turning Point, but like the Foster Freezes of the world and the Koch brothers and, you know, Leonard Leo and National Center for National Policy and all, like Glenn Beck and all of them. I worked for Glenn Beck's network. Like I was part of all of this, unknowingly how sinister it all was. I had no idea. But when I started to see it, then I didn't want any part of it.
Sure.
But like we started Seneca with our own money, just like what we're doing here with Mayday. And all that money that went to all those people in 2024, it didn't come to us.
No, it certainly did not. And trust me, and we went to those places. We went to those people. And there's a couple things, right? Number one, we weren't part of this establishment, you know, part of the Democratic Party that like, oh, we don't have a 20-year track record of, I don't know, delivering or not. And other big groups, like, I mean, should I call them out? Because I kind of want to, that wouldn't give us any money because, you know, they had been told who to give it to. And we weren't certainly one of them.
Charlie,
and that's not how Republicans work.
No,
that's the only reason why I'm bringing that up. It's not like woe is us, but like
no, it wasn't right. And that's the
like,
thing.
I was like, wait, I don't understand this. The world I come from,
if
you have a good idea and you have proof of concept and you've done a couple things and like we had already demonstrated clearly that we know what we were doing. Republicans will write you a check for more than you asked for.
And
go do it.
Breathing room to like not make mistakes, but like breathing room for trial and error.
Correct.
Right? Oh yeah, because
you want to help us win? We don't care.
Where would all that money go, Future Forward? Because I would love to know how many votes Future Forward was delivering for the Democratic Party in 2024 and how many it plans to deliver going forward, because I have seen nothing.
And how they lost because people were so uninterested and didn't understand what was at stake that they didn't bring out their own people.
And let me tell you something. And I don't know if people understand this. I think the Bulwark does incredible work.
They do.
Amazing work. You know who's funding the Bulwark? You know who gave them startup money?
Oh, yes. Murdoch.
The Murdochs. James and Catherine Murdoch, because they have a guilt trip about how much money they've made off of Fox News.
Yep.
So James Murdoch, not Lachlan, who took over the company.
James like the better one.
Yeah, the other one.
Yeah, the other one who walked out.
In the Shiv, the Shiv Murdoch.
Yeah.
For those who watch Succession.
Yeah. So who walked out with 1.1 billion.
Yeah.
And thank God, because
good for them.
No, good for them, but they're Republicans. You guys, these aren't Democrats. No. And I have to say, George,
can you name a Democrat? Julie, these are your people. Can you name anyone that's actually invested in like
this?
Not to say that it doesn't exist, but I don't know of any.
You know what? I don't. Because I'll tell you something, George Soros, for everybody that's like George Soros for Soros, where's that money going?
Right, who's getting?
I know. Listen, I know it's called Democracy PAC. You could look it up. You could see, you know, it's coming straight from Soros to that PAC, but it's not being spent. It's not being spent on this stuff. Right. Michael Bloomberg.
I think that there's this because the 20th century, right? I feel like the good guys and gals in the 20th century had control of the media. And I think that, or at least that was the understanding. And I think that this failure to adapt to a digital age, I think people are still asleep about it. And I think the left still thinks that, oh, no, but we still have the media. And like, I'm here to tell you, we don't. The people that are sitting in the boardrooms at these major corporations and media conglomerates are Republicans. They are Republicans. And that is the grand conspiracy, is that the mainstream media does not protect Democrats. It protects Republicans. And for anybody who may be on the left, who maybe is part of these conglomerates, overcorrect. And when they overcorrect, we end up with Hillary Clinton losing an election and Donald Trump and James Comey now almost 10 years later.
God indicted over some bullshit.
Right. God was the Pod Save America guys, but they speak to a very specific audience of insiders or their stupid little insider jokes. And those guys haven't worked in politics since 2000. Last election they did, it was 2012.
And listen, I don't know who invested in what they're doing. At the very least, I know in the beginning, because I used to listen to them when they were over at Bill Simmons at the Ringer, and then they did Keep It at 1600. They did Keep It at 1600 before they were Pod Save America, and I listened to them pretty religiously back then, and they were doing it out of their houses and apartments and stuff.
It was novel. It was new. There wasn't really anything like that for them. It was a good idea when they started it.
Listen, in Midas, like I'm not shitting on anybody, so nobody come for me in the comments. But like, these are 3 kids who come from an entertainment family with a lot of money and a lot of access to resources and people. Not to say they didn't work hard, but they did. They started on like second base at least. So and this is the thing, and it's. Again, like this is why these algorithms, you're talking about the bots, the Russian bots, the Chinese bots, right, that are out there in this algorithm stirring up trouble. They're the grand, majority of the voices, in addition to the right-wing stuff that's being pushed. And there just aren't enough of us to even counter it.
To make a dent, because the Republicans have a 30-year head start.
Right.
30-year head start,
Right.
And like, but as that's happening, we still, like, you look at so many, well, I guess it's invention comes from necessity, right? So there's a necessity now for this type of
dire
information, right? It's like existential, because how many people, I guarantee you, that if what you just said, Julie, about the nexus of the Russians and what they did during Comey's end of Comey's tenure there in 2016, like most people have no idea. And why don't they? Well, because no one in the mainstream media would touch that, because they're scared to death of, I don't know, a Russian hack coming for them. Maybe.
Oh, no. I think it's even worse than that, Tara. At least that's a national fear. I think it's even more specious than that. I think that the Republicans do such a good job of working the refs that Donald Trump has said it's a hoax. It's the Russia hoax.
Why people are embarrassed.
And that's why he says it. And they don't want the Overton window keeps moving. He says it's a hoax, and Julie says it's not a hoax. And so one person says the earth is flat, and the other person says the earth is round. And we don't really have time to determine who's telling the truth. So we're just not even going to talk about it anymore.
We're just going to move on.
That's the both sides of a lie thing. Right. A certain person said that. I'm not going to name who, but Michelle knows. And it was actually one of the few pearls, of wisdom that he did say. But it's true, though, that we're under no obligation to tell both sides of a lie, which is what journalists, under the objectivity, the media, we have to be objective. So we have to give equal time to the flat earthers and the scientists, which is just not the same thing. Okay. It's not. But yet they treat it as such, so that the people who are the flat earthers go, see, now we're being treated with the same respect and given the same legitimacy as the scientists who,
And if you don't give the flat earthers,
it's not, the earth isn't flat. Right. So now this is what we've got. Well, no, it's a hoax. Well, actually, it's not. And this is the evidence. It doesn't matter. The people who say it's a hoax are going to just keep saying it's a hoax because they feel it's a hoax. So their feelings and their opinions are on the same level.
And facts are not feelings. Feelings are not facts. And Donald Trump, I mean, I've been going back recently, watching some of his old clips of talking about Barack Obama and the birtherism, and like, I just don't understand, why won't he just show the birth certificate? And even after Barack Obama showed his birth certificate, which I think is insane that he even got to that point, it still wasn't enough, because he's like, well, that's a copy. That's not like, I mean, it wouldn't stop. And that's the thing, is like, giving any oxygen to this shit is, and this is how Donald Trump is president.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And it's like, you know, the people, like, back to the Comey conversation that started this whole thing, because it's just so extraordinary that here we are in 2025 and Donald Trump is still holding on to a grudge over an election he fucking won. Okay. It's not like he lost it in 2016, and what Comey did in his eyes cost him the election. Right. No, Comey actually helped him win the election with that bullshit Hillary.
You should be thanking him.
I know. And then but again, like with most authoritarians, it's never enough, because then he kept Comey on as FBI director, and then he wanted the loyalty pledge, and Comey was like, I'm not doing that part.
Yeah.
Again, another one of those moments where it's like, you remember where you were. I remember
Lordy,
where I was when the news broke that Comey had been fired. I was up in Maine speaking at a college there, and like we were at the little like pre-talk dinner, and I got the alert, and I went, oh my God, like I had to like throw my remarks out and have to, you know, talk about the Comey situation.
Mr. Comey.
And I was like, this is nuts, because at the time it was like, what, 2017, so we're only a few months into Trump. Most people didn't think that he was going to do this crazy shit. And you know, we were like, well, we kind of told you so. I don't know why he was going to adjust. And then again, but it was because Comey refused to be a complete sycophant. He wanted a Pam Bondi type. Right. He wasn't going to do that. I mean, he made mistakes in that other thing, but he was a man of integrity, at least, and respected the.
He's a career law enforcement.
Yes. Person, now he might have made some bad political decisions, but he wasn't going to sacrifice like what the job of the director and the FBI, like what we're seeing with Kash Patel, you know.
And look what's going on with James Comey's daughter. She's been let go. I mean, like this goes down. Yes, it goes down into his family, and you know, because she works for DOJ, right?
Not anymore. They fired her. She was on the prosecutor on the Epstein stuff.
Yeah, she was the one that grew up with one of my good friends, and they used to carpool together with Mr. Comey.
That's right, in Jersey, because Comey is a Jersey guy.
He is.
This was in Virginia.
Allendale, Julie?
Well, he's from, I think Allendale. Yeah, the Birmingham. Also, breaking news. Apparently, Tish James is also about to get indicted.
Jesus.
Oh God.
So
she was anticipating this, but that's crazy. A sitting fucking attorney general is a state attorney general is about to get indicted by this.
Guys, I'm going to say this, and I had I just had breakfast with a friend today. This is what I think the Democratic base is demanding from their next. There's going to be two lanes going into the next election, right? Lane number one is going to be, and it's not progressive versus moderate, by the way. Anybody who thinks it is, it's not Hillary versus Bernie, or Schumer versus AOC. It is. There's two lanes, right? There's going to be we got to go back to the way things were and kumbaya, the Pete Buttigieg lane, right?
Who we love, by the way, but
we love, but that's going to be that lane. The Gretchen Whitmer lane, the Josh Shapiro lane, and I'm not making a value statement on which lane is better or worse.
Yeah, no, I know.
I am.
And then there's, well, I'm about to, but I'm just saying, but I'm not saying like one side is definitely wrong. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be the other lane, and the other lane is looking for two things: authenticity and revenge. And that is my lane.
Oh, right. But I want to just
behind you, Julie.
Righteous revenge, though.
This is like I don't mean revenge.
Like Avengers.
Justice. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say revenge. I would say justice.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is I don't think we can go back. I don't think, because the problem is that there were no there were no ramifications for any of these people for what they did.
No. And that is a big, big black eye on the Biden administration.
We were talking about this on Over It today, and just how long this goes, the grievance of the American people. And now, unfortunately, it's been directed, I think, at the wrong people, because it's the same people who are hurting us that, you know, whatever. But this goes back to the financial crisis. Julie, I know you talk about that pretty often, about how not one person went to jail, right? And then we're talking about even the Iraq war and the lying that went on with that. COVID, the pandemic, 1 million dead Americans plus and counting. And now this, January 6th, 1,600 insurrectionists pardoned out of prison, including 2 that were serving multi-decade sentences for
seditious
conspiracy.
Stuart Rhodes then proceeded to immediately go to the Dirksen House office building, Senate office building.
Yep.
And have lunch in the Dirksen cafeteria.
There's a guy working in the fucking Justice Department right now getting taxpayer money that was at the January 6th insurrection saying kill cops.
Did I tell you guys?
Is his name.
I told you guys the story of the 2008 financial crisis and what I heard from the Senate. Did I tell you the story? I'm going to tell you really quickly and stop me if I have. Well, you guys might have heard it, but a lot of people haven't. I was working for Senator Lattenberg. It was his last campaign. Senator Lattenberg was a United States Senator, Frank Lattenberg from New Jersey. He was quite old when he
stepped in after the Corzine disaster, right?
No. He didn't step out. Corzine ran for his seat. He retired.
Right.
John Corzine ran for his seat. I did that race and then went to work for Corzine in the Senate. Then Corzine, Bob Torricelli had to resign.
Oh, that's right. It was Torricelli. That's right. I knew it was somebody over there. I was like, oh God, Jersey.
And Lattenberg came back.
Jersey was having a moment between that and the governor and all. I was like, oh,
yeah. That was in 2002, and then 2008, Lattenberg was running for his last reelection, and he was quite old at this point.
Gotcha.
And he and I were very close. Truly,
he was a good man.
You know what? He was a difficult man, and a lot of people had a hard time getting along with him. He and I just had a bond. So
he did a lot for the state of New Jersey.
I think he was the most effective public servant, aside from Ted Kennedy, more broadly. Like it or hate it, he's the reason you have a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
He's the reason that you have a 21 and over drinking age. He's the reason you can't smoke on planes. Actually, not the speed limit. Sorry. You can't smoke on planes because of Frank Lattenberg. You can't have chemicals in food. Certain because of Frank Lattenberg, for now. He was an incredibly consequential senator. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that Frank Lattenberg, sorry, there goes my dog, was sitting. Hagrid was asked me the day of the Lehman Brothers. I think it was that's September. So not Lehman collapse.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember exactly where I was. I was standing outside Lehman Brothers.
Yeah. And this was September of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me to come into his office because there was a call that was scheduled between the Senate Democratic Caucus and Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, and Hank Paulson, the Secretary of Treasury. This is under the Bush administration.
Yep.
And Harry Reid was the majority leader at the time. And clearly, the whole thing was set to music from Reid's and Bernanke's and Paulson's perspective, but they wanted to get the Democratic Caucus on board to vote for the bailout.
Right.
Wall Street bailed out. And all these senators, I believe it was a Friday. I don't know where they were. Maybe they were in recess, but the point is nobody was in Washington, so everybody's on the phone. And so Lattenberg puts it on speaker, and I'm listening to this. And all of a sudden you hear Bernie Sanders, who's the very distinctive voice. I don't consent to he's in the airport somewhere. I don't consent to this. I don't consent to this, and I'm not consenting to bailing out these oligarchs. So they got us into this. I can't do the impression.
Yeah.
But you get the gist, right?
Yeah.
So of course, then Bernie Sanders does this. Then all of a sudden, John Kerry, who, P.S., the last time I'd seen him, almost tried to run me over on Nantucket with his yacht. So I.
Oh my God!
that was
so much in that sentence.
That was in some lame fish.
Run me over a Nantucket yacht. Got it.
Exactly. So we want to talk about oligarchs. I don't know why he chimes in, but I guess he had run for president earlier, so he decides.
Mr. Hines.
Yeah, Mr. Hines, and he's like, I don't consent to this either, and this is very problematic, and blah blah blah, and starts talking about this, and all of a sudden, then everybody starts getting on board. This is we're now bailing out Wall Street, and we're doing this, and you could just see, I could see it coming from 1,000 miles away. I forgot whether it was Paulson or Bernanke, but they clearly planned for this contingency.
Yeah.
So let's say it was Paulson. I think it was Paulson. P.S. former chairman of Goldman Sachs. He goes, "Senators, I'm going to be very frank with you. If you don't agree to this bailout and this doesn't happen in the next 48 hours, you could kiss all of your stock portfolios goodbye." That ended the discussion, and they were like, "All right,
where do we sign?
Where do we sign?" And that was
the
end of discussion. But listen, I'm telling you the story now.
Yeah.
Every worst paranoid thought that the American public had about how this was all set to music benefit the wealthy and rich and powerful.
Yeah.
I just confirmed for you.
Yes.
And those are just the discussions that I was in. And that was one discussion I was
right.
Just imagine what was happening behind the scenes that even senators weren't privy to, that was happening within the administration that was happening in Wall Street.
Yep.
I was a little staffer at the time too. I was the comms director up there. And I remember when all of that was going on, and also thinking like, this is the end of John McCain's.
Of course.
I was like, fuck. We were all like, are you kidding me? Why? Like now,
all the shit. He wasn't gonna win anyway.
I mean, yeah, but still, it was just like, that was like it's kind of like when Bob Dole fell off the damn, stage in the fall of 1996. And
that poor guy.
We knew he wasn't going to beat Clinton, but that was kind of like where we were like, yeah, that's where I checked out. I was like,
First daughter, Meghan McCain, small blessings.
Oh God. Insufferable times 1,000. But as much as
the McCain legacy is complicated, and for those who know John McCain, and like, he was a war hero and all that, but he was also like a problematic guy in a lot of ways too. But that's another conversation for another day.
Well, as much as the Occupy Wall Street people got a bad rep for being a disorganized response to a lot of that, like at the heart of it was the righteous anger of the American people, and which it really was. And
I look back now, of course, I was on the other side of that.
I know. I mean, I had a lot of friends who were down at Zuccotti Park, and there's a lot of anger. And then look at the other side of that was the Tea Party, the rise of the Tea Party. And it's like because the problem was never handled.
Right.
After Nixon, after like everything, there's been no accountability. And what that does is it just festers the wound, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And here we are in 2025.
All Obama needed to do was throw one hostage on the tarmac.
Yeah.
Just one. He could have indicted one CEO. Pick it.
But we have this mentality of like, let's just move on for the
it's a Gerald Ford, let me pardon Nixon to bring national unity.
Exactly. And what good did that do?
I think part of it is that, and part of it was he was truly convinced by, don't forget Tim Geithner and all of these Wall Street guys, all of these Goldman guys who go into the administration, Goldman Sachs, really, there's some, listen, Matt Taibbi's a wackadoodle, but he was right about the tentacles. There is something to be said for him being convinced that this was going to further tank the economy and destroy confidence on Wall Street, and that moving on was the best thing to do for the economy. And I'm telling you, maybe that is so, but it was not what was in the best interest of the Democratic Party, because I truly believe
the country or democracy.
I truly believe that was the day that the populist strain entered the Republican Party. And
I think you're right. I think you're right, because that's where the Bernie types and the and the Republicans who were the lower income Republicans, not the country club Republicans. It was the regular middle class or lower to middle class Republicans that were like, fuck those guys. It's a big conspiracy against all of us, and that's the whole elites.
And therein lies so I graduated from college in 2004. The financial crisis 2008, thank God I missed that window, because debt consolidation, I was able to get a very, very low interest rate. Anybody who was graduating in 2008, 9, 10, 11, was their consolidation interest rates on their student loans was insane. I'm talking 10, 11, 12%.
Yeah.
And therein lies like the next wave of like angry young people trying to enter the workforce, cannot afford a home, cannot get out of debt, Yet we're told that, oh, don't eat avocado toast and stop drinking lattes, millennials. And we're like, screw you.
Yeah. Like, that's not the problem here.
No.
Like, that wasn't the problem. Like, stop it. So you were talking about excess. Like,
all right, ladies. I don't know about you, Tara. You got a show to host.
Yeah, I am guest hosting for Mary Trump at 6. I'm stepping in for our good friend Mary. She's a little under the weather. So if you guys want more of me, I will be on at 6 o'clock over on Mary Trump's network. So you can check me out over there. And if you want more of Michelle and I, we'll be on our show, The Stakes, tomorrow night, where we have the cult expert Stephen Hassan on, Dr. Stephen Hassan. A lot of people know that he was one of the few people to get out of a major cult and then turn his life around and become an expert on that. And he has some things to say about Charlie Kirk and Christian dominionism, stuff that we've been alluding to about, like, Kirk is not just some college debater or just some good Christian guy. There's a much larger, more nefarious thing going on here with Turning Point USA and this Christian nationalism stuff and their tentacles and how well financed and how much they are in the political zeitgeist on the right. So Stephen Hassan will be on with us tomorrow night at 7:30 over on Seneca Project. So that's our cheap plug.
Wants more of me, I will be on CNN tomorrow, not with Scott Jennings, because I got banned from that show, obviously, and so did you, Tara, because we're not allowed to hurt Scott's feelings anymore. But I will be on the morning show sometime between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m.
Awesome. And I'll be on MS. I'll be on tomorrow's Thursday, right?
Yes.
I'll be on Christian thing. I don't know what hour. So we're covering the network.
We're covering it all. And then that's that. So that's it. And love you guys. And we'll see you soon. I'm sorry I missed over it this afternoon, but it was for a good cause.
Which I would like a debrief.
Yeah, I will debrief you. Just you know what? I have to actually walk to meet somebody for dinner. So if you want to call me, or I'll call you. I'll give you a call, and then you can debrief Tara.
Fantastic.
All right.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.